The Bureau of Labor Statistics predicts that over the next 8 years, jobs in STEM fields will grow 10.5% to more than 11 million in the United States. Now, filling these jobs will be critical to protecting our supply chains, growing our economy, and keeping the United States at the forefront of technology and innovation. However, there's just enough qualified American STEM graduates to meet our country needs, and by 2030, there will be an estimated 2.5 million STEM job vacancies. Ms. Love, are you still with us? If so, I'd love to.
I am. I'm
Okay,
still here.
wonderful. I want to direct this question to you, given your role and expertise. You said in your written testimony that, quote, we should stop treating people like liabilities that need to be managed and start treating them like assets that can be developed for the betterment of our country and communities, end quote. Why is doing so for students important for the United States to remain at the forefront of technology and innovation?
Well, I have always thought it's ridiculous that we would have students come to our country, learn, and gain the expertise that they have, and then we ship people off to just compete against us. It makes no sense. This is why I emphasize we can't just I've always been a supporter of doing something for DACA recipients, but we have a multi-pronged issue that we have to face. For instance, we need to emphasize that cross-border migration jeopardizes opportunities to come to the United States legally in the future. And we can't forget that recipients of H-1B visas are waiting in long lines. We are doing not just migrants a disservice, but we're doing a disservice to the American people in all aspects. So I am, again, emphasizing and pleading with Congress to continue to do the work. It's not acceptable for us to remain a country that does not have good immigration policy that reflects our needs and our compassion.
Yeah, thank you. And actually, I agree wholeheartedly, uh, but think it may be helpful for the sake of making progress to recognize that we may have to recognize there's different populations. I mean, for all the times I hear something about the southern border, the southern border, the southern border, an individual or a family coming to the southern border of the United States seeking asylum, which is lawful based on federal law and international law. It's a very different group of people than the millions who have been in the United States for years and years and years, working, paying taxes, raising families, raising doctors. Uh, we shouldn't have one situation keep us from doing right by the millions of immigrants, both documented and especially undocumented, that deserve better. That it's in our national interest. I want to transition to a different topic. This spring, more than 100,000 undocumented young people will graduate from high school. Yet an overwhelming majority of those graduates are ineligible for DACA because they entered the United States after the DACA required arrival date of June 15th, 2007. So they fit all the other criteria of DACA minus the fact that it's been 10 years since DACA was signed. In fact, DACA recipients or students who are potentially eligible for DACA, as written, now represent less than half of the undocumented college and university student population. Undocumented students are generally barred by federal law from accessing in-state tuition and financial aid, but some states, and I'll give credit to Texas for having been the first, followed soon after by my home state of California, passed laws to make in-state tuition and financial aid available to undocumented students. Other states, however, are doing the opposite by actively preventing undocumented students from even enrolling in public universities. First, Dr. Larios, I know you spoke to this in response to a question from Senator Booker. Just wanted to offer you another minute if you wanted to add or expand on your prior comments.
Yes, thank you, Senator. I think that this is such an important really piece of information to focus on, knowing that there's more than 100,000 undocumented young people that will graduate and not really have the ability to continue with their lives in a way. They will be barred from entering the workforce and face more challenges to accessing a college education. Um, and it, truly, it's a disservice to our country to know that all of this potential can be lost. Um, for me, when I think about the challenges they will face, maybe in some states they won't even be able to access a driver's license to get to class, assuming they even are able to be allowed to study in a home institution and have the ability to pay for tuition. I also think about, again, a lot about the mental health piece too, because all of these laws and all of this inaction comes down with great impunity in the human body. And we're sending a message, right? We're sending a message to them that their contributions are not enough, and that their lives don't matter when we don't change laws and we continue to have them live in limbo. So I think it's time that we help change this message.
Thank you. I'll just also add for the record that many of these undocumented students graduating high school will do so as their school valedictorians. And their valedictorian speeches in graduations just break my heart. Mr. Burrell, I understand, well, we acknowledged a minute ago that there's some states that are actually moving to make it harder for undocumented immigrants to attend college or be eligible for financial aid. Can you describe what the impacts of these changes to the law or proposed changes to the law would be both for students and, again, the universities as institutions?
Thank you, Chairman. We know from the National Conference of State Legislatures that there are 19 states that currently do provide in-state tuition for undocumented students. But that leaves, my math is bad right now, 31, I believe, is the number if I'm doing my math correctly, that would not have those same policies and could potentially right now be passing a legislature that would make it impossible for them to access that in-state tuition. This would be a major barrier. DACA students, undocumented students, it is hard to plan for a future when you don't know if you will be able to graduate to afford a college education, but then to be able to graduate and work and stay in the U.S. That fear of deportation would be there, and it's hard to invest in yourself when you are uncertain of what that future may look like. So it has a huge negative impact on our society by us not being able to take full advantage of the contributions that undocumented students make to this country. But for universities, we have a declining enrollment in domestic student enrollment in this country. We have had 5 consecutive semesters of declining enrollment by U.S. students in our universities. There's capacity. There are seats. We should not be limiting who can achieve and be able to attend those universities and use their talents to the fullest. Thank you.
Thank you. And final subject I want to make sure we get on the record here today, and that's the impact of international students on universities and communities and our economy. International students studying in the United States contribute roughly $41 billion to our economy and support more than 458,000 jobs. About 1 out of every 5 entrepreneurs who have founded a startup in the United States is an immigrant. 1 in 5. And 3/4 of those founders first came to the United States as students, specifically. Immigrant entrepreneurs who have founded a startup in the United States are likely to start their companies in the same state in which they were educated. Clear, direct nexus, particularly where they received their graduate education. The economic impact of international students is very clear, but international students can also enrich the educational experience of U.S. citizens by exposing their fellow students to new perspectives and new ideas. International students, like all immigrants, bring tremendous value to this country. Mr. Barola, can you just elaborate a bit more on the benefits international students bring to the experience of domestic students in the United States?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Domestic students, Americans, benefit tremendously from international students, both in the short, I shouldn't say both, but in the short, the medium, and the long term. In the short term, they're in classes. They're learning from international students, gaining different perspectives. Those classroom discussions, those discussions in the dormitories at night, all add to the educational experience for domestic students. And international students also are paying full tuition to attend our universities. They are also adding economic activity directly into those cities. They are going to grocery stores, buying groceries. They are renting rooms out from community members that have a spare room in their house, and they are investing and contributing to the local economy by going to restaurants and whatnot. So they bring tremendous immediate economic benefit to the U.S. and the communities. But in the long term, as you mentioned, they are founding companies. They are leading in research. Moderna Pharmaceuticals was started by an international student. They are employing Americans after graduation, and they're helping work with Americans to build our research and our technology.
Thank you very much.